As you work on your Excel spreadsheet, you may have found Excel filters, and those auto filter buttons can be a wonderful tool and a great help when you're trying to find just specific kinds of information. But did you know you can also use an advanced filter? Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library, and today let's investigate those advanced filters in Excel. As we look at our example spreadsheet today, we can see that it's, well, exactly the same spreadsheet that we used for the very first filter video that you may have seen a couple of weeks ago. But let's look at it just in case you haven't seen that one. So here we have last name and first name, a district and a state within the district for employees, and then we have their title and department, their birth date, and their years employed. And this is kind of a special list. As I scroll down, you can see that we only have really about 21 employees that are being honored or pulled out in some way for this particular list. Now, if we decide that we would like to find the employees in the central district and we would like to use an advanced filter, first of all, we need to be sure that there is no data touching column G. So column H really needs to be blank. While you could have some information in column H, that could tend to throw off the filter and the criteria range. We also want to be sure that we have a blank row underneath all of our data that we've typed in. So in fact, row 23 is blank. And now we're ready for our criteria range. To create our filter and add our criteria range, we're going to go up to the top above the ribbon to the Data tab. And as I go to the right on that Data tab, I find the Sort and Filter group. And in the lower right of that group, we have the Advanced button. Well, first of all, step one is we need to create that criteria range. And the criteria range is made of a column heading and then deciding what information in that column is the criteria you want to find. One of the things that I have found is that although you can type the column heading, sometimes the criteria range doesn't work as expected because people haven't been able to see, say, a hidden space. So I tend to go to the column heading and copy it. So I'll use a Control-C. Then I'll go where I want that column heading to appear in the criteria range and Control-V so that I know that if there were hidden spaces or some odd quirks with that column heading, that I've picked up everything for my criteria range as well. And then I could do a copy and paste as well for my criteria, but I'm going to be brave and type this. So for my district, I'm just going to type a C for Central. And that is our criteria range. We want to look for the district that is central. Now, to actually work with the filter, we need to come back and just randomly click in our spreadsheet. And as long as we have clicked within that spreadsheet, then we are ready to go to the Advanced button, click on it, and then we just answer some questions. So starting at the top, do we want to filter the list in place? And yes, we do. Now, this is exactly then like the auto filter button where the records that you want to see are visible and the ones that you don't want to see because they don't match your criteria are hidden away. We could copy to another location, but we'll do that in just a little bit. Now, the list range, because I clicked within this spreadsheet, it has already picked up that my list starts in A1 and it ends at G22. That's perfect. Now the criteria range, it has picked up that maybe I want to go with I1 and I2 for my criteria range. That is in fact correct. Now if I decide that it isn't correct or that I need to edit it, I can certainly go in and type what I need to do. We also have this option for unique records that we'll look at a little bit later as well. So we have our list range, we have our criteria range, we'll click OK, And now we can see that the records that we can't see are the ones that are from the central district. And as we go to the left, we can see that we have, say, row 5 and 6, then 12 and 14 and 15, 16, but then we skip to 18, and then we again skip to 20, 21, and 22. So this has done a really quick, fast job of finding the central district. Now, to remove this filter, which we may want to do from time to time, we go back to the Sort and Filter group, go above the Advanced button, and click on Clear. Now when we do that, notice that it did not clear the criteria range. It only cleared the filter so that I can see all of the records that I want to see. Now that we've created our first advanced filter and our first criteria range, let's expand on what we know a little bit. So what I might decide to do is try to find the people in the central district who are administrative assistants. So to do that, I would need to add to my criteria range. So let's go to E1 where we have title department, copy that, and we're going to put that title just to the right of district. And then administrative assistant, rather than type, I think I'm going to do a copy and paste that in J2. Now, when you take your criteria and you put it side by side, like I have here, all of my criteria in the same row, that is an AND logic. So what this means is I need to find the people in the central district, and those people in the central district that I'm looking for are the ones who are administrative assistants. Hide all the other records. So with that in mind, let's click in our spreadsheet someplace, and I have these little marching ants, so I'm going to press escape to turn those off. Now I'm going to click in my spreadsheet here, go to my advanced button, and answer the question. So yes, I want to filter in place. My list range hasn't changed, but my criteria range, let's go to the upper arrow here, and I'm going to click and drag over those cells I1 through J2, keeping in mind that I could have typed this just as easily. Also notice that when I did that it brings in advanced filter. Now I know that advanced filter is the name of my worksheet because it has the single quotes around the text, and then it has an exclamation point. All right, now to the right of that we have that down arrow. We'll click to expand our dialog box, and now we can click OK. And here we have the two people in the central district who are administrative assistants. Well, let's kind of get back to the beginning. So let's remove that filter. Let's clear in the upper right. And this time I want to even add to what I have done. So I'm going to go with the last name and copy it and put it to the right of the title department. And then below last name, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm looking for people whose last name is in the last part of the alphabet. So under last name, I'm going to say that they are greater than or equal to, I guess halfway through the alphabet would be about an M. So now we're going to look for people in the central district, then filter that down so that we find only those who are the admin assistants, and then of the administrative assistants in the central district, we are going to find those whose last name starts with a letter that's at the end of the alphabet. Wow, can we do that? Well, let's click in our spreadsheet. Let's go to the advanced filter, and we'll answer our questions. Yes, we want to filter in place. The list range has not changed, but the criteria range, let's click and drag. So we'll click and drag over I1 through K2. Go back to that drop down arrow to expand everything out. That's exactly the way we want it. We'll click OK, and now we see Jill Price, whose last name starts with a P, who is in the central district and who is an administrative assistant. Isn't that just fascinating how much you can do using that advanced filter? Well, let's clear that and then get ready to do even more. I've reset our criteria range here back to just the central district and a title or department of administrative assistant, because it could be that instead of wanting the administrative assistants within only the central district, we might decide that we want to find the administrative assistants no matter where they are. To do that, I can simply click on Administrative Assistant and drag it down. With criteria ranges, if your criteria is on separate rows, you create an OR criteria. So now how this reads is, we want to find everybody in the central district, or we don't care what district they are in, but we want to find if they are an administrative assistant. Now, because of that, we could also have administrative assistants who are in the central district, and we'll find those as well. Well, let's click on our spreadsheet here. Let's go to Advanced. We're going to filter in place. The list range is the same as it has been. A criteria range has actually already adjusted to I1 through J3, so we'll leave it as is and we'll click OK. And now let's look at our results. Obviously we have everybody in the central district, but as I look at this E for East, administrative assistant, then central, then from the West District we have an administrative assistant, and right below that we have Jill Price, who's an administrative assistant within the Central District. So ORs can be really interesting. Well, let's tell you what, let's clear, and this time let's say that we want to find people in the Central District, or we want to find people who are admin assistants, or we want to find everyone who is in IT regardless of district as well. Well, what would that look like? Well, we can go back to Title Department and copy that and place it to the right of Title Department, so we can use the same column heading more than once. And then because we said we want to use OR, we need to come down to a new line, and I'm just going to type IT. Now let's click on our spreadsheet. We'll go to Advanced, and again filter. The list in place is correct. The list range should be exactly the same, but let's go to that up arrow for the criteria range, and we do need to define it a little bit, because now it needs to be I1 through K, what is that, 4. And once we have that, we'll click the down arrow and we will go to OK. And so we know we're going to find everybody in the Central District, so we see all these C's. If we see the E, we're going to see them either as IT. Here's a West that's also IT. Here's an E that's an admin assistant, remember them. And here's a W that's also an admin assistant. So we have 3 criteria that we are looking for and matching all at the same time. And then we will clear that filter. You can tell by what we've done so far that advanced filters let you get fairly complex in your logic. So here's something else that you may run into from time to time. What if you want to use an and an or? Well, you could do that too. So for example, let me come up to admin assistant here in our criteria range and move it back so that it's on the same row as the Central District. So now that reads that we want to find the administrative assistants that are in the Central District. Then I'm going to take this IT and move it up just 1 row so that it is still offset within my criteria range. So now we're going to find the admin assistants in the Central District, and then we will actually, or then we are going to find everyone who is in IT regardless of district. So let's click on our spreadsheet here. Let's go to Advanced. Again, we can filter in place. We can still keep that same list range, but let's go back to our up arrow for the criteria range and click and drag over those cells so that we have our criteria range defined correctly, which is I1 through K3, Now I'm going to click on the drop down, click OK, and let's see what we have. If we have an E, it's going to be for IT. Here is Central and Admin Assistant. West is IT, Central is IT, and Central is Administrative Assistant. So again, we have found Central and Admin Assistant, or all of the IT people. Isn't that just great how we can really find what we are looking for as long as we use a criteria range and then some correct logic? Well, let's clear that and go on to our next example. I've now removed the criteria range that we have been working on because we may want to look at numbers and some of the comparisons that we can do with birthdays and years employed, for example. So for our first example here, let's look for a birth date that is greater than or equal to 1985. So to do that, we would go to birth date, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it in I1. And then for the birth date, again, greater than or equal to, so your greater than, equal to, not equal to, those kinds of symbols work well with your criteria range. And then we're going to just type in a date. However, 1985, if I just type the year, but the birth dates here all have month and day, I think I could end up with a problem. So I'm going to put 1/1/1985 and press enter. That's now my criteria range. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. Let's go to an advanced filter. Of course, we're going to filter in place. Our list range hasn't changed. Our criteria range, though, let's make sure that it's correct. And we'll click and drag over I1 through I2. Click on that blue drop-down arrow to expand our dialog box. Click OK. And now all of these people were born after 1985. All right, that is really great, and it's of course something that you may need to do from time to time. Well, let's click once again on the clear button so that we can turn that off. Now we might also decide that at some point we might want to find people who've been employed within a certain range of years. So let me take off birth date, at least for right now. And let's look at this years employed. So I'm going to copy years employed, and I'm actually going to paste it twice while I still have it here. I'm going to widen out this column just so we can see it. Okay, so now I want to find the years employed that are greater than or equal to 10, and so it's on the same row, less than or equal to 25. So this is one way that we can get a range of numbers. With the greater than, equal to, or the less than, equal to, it includes the 10 and the 25. So now let's click on our spreadsheet. Let's go to the advanced filter. We'll filter in place. Our list range hasn't changed yet. Our criteria range, though, let's double check it. So we'll click on this upper arrow. Yeah, we need to go from I1 to J2. We'll click the blue drop down and then click OK. And now we can see the people who have been employed greater or equal to 10, less than or equal to 25. So the 10 and the 25 are included, and then we have some other people who were employed 12 and 15 years. What an easy way to find a number range. And then we'll go back up to the clear button and click clear. Now this is what makes this kind of fun. I'm actually going to take these and move them over one column, and I'm going to go back to my birth date, copy it, and put it in first. Now let's see. Let's again look for a birth date that is greater than or equal to 1985. So we'll say greater than or equal to, and again we'll put this 1/1/1985. And I want to find all of those people who've been employed between 10 and 25 years. So let's go to our spreadsheet. We'll go to Advanced. And what has changed again is this criteria range. So we'll click the up arrow and click and drag over our criteria. Click the little drop down arrow so that we can see that criteria range clearly. Click OK. And now we can see that we have 4 people, actually, whoa, we have a duplicate, so we're going to have to fix that. But we can see that we have at least 3 people who have been employed for 10 to 25 years, and that their birth date is after 1985. Well, that is pretty fascinating, isn't it? Well, let's click on Clear so that we can get back to our original data, because we really need to find this information, but we also need to look for that unique records, right? So let's go back to Advanced. Now this shouldn't have actually changed. So this is going to filter in place. We have the same list range. We have the same criteria range, but we want unique records only. We'll click OK. And now we have the 3 unique records that we were looking for. Now, this can be such a wonderful tool if you have a huge list of names and addresses and you want to find unique records only. You can use advanced filters to help you find that list of unique information and remove, or at least hide, any duplication that has happened within your data. Well, let's go back to Clear then and get back to our original information. For our last example, I've already removed the existing criteria range that was there, and we're going to do something that's relatively simple. So let's go to State in D1. We're going to copy it and paste it in I1, and then we'll find, well, let's do a couple things here. Let's find Florida, and then let's do another state. So let's do a copy here of state, and we'll put, let's do New Hampshire. And again, that needs to be an OR, because a state cannot be Florida and New Hampshire. It can only be one or the other. So from here then, we'll click on our spreadsheet, we'll click on our advanced filter, and we'll not filter in place this time, but we will actually copy to another location. Now our list range did not change, but our criteria range probably needs to be checked. Yeah, so it is actually I1 through J3. We'll click on our little blue drop-down arrow, and where we want to copy to, sometimes it tries to fill this out as well, but I'm just going to click on this up arrow to the right of that box, and I'm going to select the left uppermost position of that first cell. So as you picture your data, what is the uppermost left cell? Where will it be? And let's put it down at, say, just to make this more readable, let's put it in I6. And we'll click on that drop down blue arrow, and then we'll click OK. And so now it has copied, which is kind of interesting here, the column headings with our data, and then it has just the answers for the New Hampshire and Florida employees. Notice that there are no blank hidden rows here. It is just simply the answer. Now this can be such a great assistance when you need to find just particular records, but lots of times when you filter, what happens is you have those hidden rows, and if you try to copy those rows, it's going to copy the hidden rows as well. So this way, this is one of the ways that you can get just the answer and be able to use that information very easily. So yes, we can copy and place. It's kind of sad that we can't copy to, say, another worksheet or another workbook, but even this can save you an amazing amount of time as you work on your filters. To learn even more, visit our mymcpl.org/online learning page, where you will find some really great online resources, which include Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, and Learning Express Library. Tune in each week as we introduce new videos on a variety of tech topics. You can find us at 1 o'clock on Wednesday and Friday and 2 o'clock on Tuesday. Be sure to find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, or if you prefer, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at MCPLMO, where you can find our MCPL Consumer Technology Resources playlist.